All right, so the much anticipated crossroads have arrived. The Miami Dolphins have a decision to make. They have to pay Tua, and the clock is ticking as contract negotiations have already begun. There are many indicators that have happened recently that show that a contract extension is inevitable and imminent for Tua. The Dolphins recently signed OBJ. I wanted to talk about that last week, but I was walking the stage at graduation. I saw that come out, and I was like, man, I wish I was home so I could make a video for this. But I had to enjoy the moment, of course. And the Dolphins made moves recently to cut back on some big contracts, such as cutting players like Xavier Howard. And that suggests that a contract extension is coming for Tua. The question, it's not if he gets paid. It's how much he gets paid. What is that range going to be? And there's a lot of factors that are going to be involved in that. Internally, you've got to look at the fact that the Dolphins are going to have to at some point make a decision on if they're going to pay Waddle and Jalen Phillips. And I hope they do, because they're both very productive players. It was unfortunate what happened to Jalen Phillips last year with his season-ending injury in New York. But that guy is an absolute monster, and I really hope that the Dolphins end up giving him an extension, and Waddle. He's incredibly productive as well. So you have to look at other internal factors, and then factors surrounding the player himself. How has he produced? You use that to gauge out your contracts as well. So with that said, let's look into some of Tua's numbers from this past year. 29 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, over 4,500 yards. And he was around the top of the league for passer rating for most of the season last year. Tua's passer rating is incredible. He's an incredibly efficient quarterback, an incredibly reliable quarterback. And keep in mind, he was an MVP candidate late into the season last year. So that has to be considered as well. He has been one of the better quarterbacks in the AFC. That's something you have to consider. You look at Tua's strengths. He's great at making decisions quickly. He's great at making reads quickly and delivering the ball. He has a great release. He has a speedy release. And he is one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL. That's an attribute that he was praised for entering the draft back in 2020. And he has lived up to that expectation. Tua is generationally accurate, which is one of the most important characteristics when you're evaluating a quarterback. So those are Tua's strengths. Let's look into some of his weaknesses. The one that people point out a lot. Look, the 14 interceptions, it isn't great. It's not terrible, but it isn't great. He can improve a little bit on the turnover. Sometimes he throws picks he does not need to. But generally, Tua is very accurate. The one thing that people point out a lot that I'm going to kind of push back on when it comes to the weaknesses is that Tua isn't good against playing elite teams, good teams with winning records, and he's not great in December and January. He is 2-8 in January while under center these past two seasons. I'm going to push back on that and say both of those things are team-related issues, not Tua-related issues. Injuries late in the season piled up for Miami both those past 2 years. Granted, Tua was injured in 2022, but last year, Tua did not miss a single game, and he was healthy for the majority of the season. So Tua was there, and Tua delivered. You have to tip your cap to that. And the Dolphins said themselves, if Tua produces and he stays healthy, he is our quarterback of the future. None of those other factors impact that. Those are team-related issues. When you lose games, that is a team-related issue. That comes down to your cohesion, your communication. There's so many things involved in a game. Making stops on third down, getting first downs. There's making stops you need to, converting on fourth down you need to. There's so many different things that go into a game. Defense, your push on your offensive line. Your receivers running their routes, is their communication well with the quarterback? There's so many different things that go into if a team wins a game. You cannot put that on one single player. So I push back on that narrative. Tua, check the boxes of the Miami Dolphins. Did he produce? Yes. His numbers have been fantastic the past 2 years. Did he stay healthy this year? Yes. He was one of the healthiest players on the team. Played every single game. He was reliable, and he was available. So the question becomes, as I was saying, how much will Tua get paid? Well, when you compare him to his counterparts, his competitors in the NFL, I would say that a fair price for Tua would be in between $45 and $50 million a year. For what he produces, what he delivers to the Miami Dolphins, I think that is more than fair. And it could lean on the more team-friendly end. Because Tua said, going into these negotiations, I'm not going to sit out. I'm not going to hold out on contract negotiations. I want to play. I want to be in training camp. I want to be playing week 1. I'm not holding out. I'm not doing all that crap. I'm playing. And I respect that. It's a very no-nonsense approach. He's focused on playing football. Yes, getting paid is great. He wants to be sure to capitalize on this opportunity because $45 to $50 million a year is generational wealth. And if he can secure that, I wouldn't sit out any longer than I have to. You're playing the game you love. You're making fantastic money. You're playing for an amazing team with a fantastic receiving core. You're throwing to Tyreek Hill. You're throwing to Jalen Waddle. You're throwing to OBJ now. Life is good in the 305. Tua knows that. Tua knows that he has a legitimate chance to compete for Super Bowl with this team. And that's a fact. Whether people want to admit it or not, that is a fact. The Dolphins are capable of that. If things can go their way during the year, the Dolphins are more than capable of that. So if you're taking $45 to $50 million a year to have that opportunity, Tua knows that. Tua knows what lies in front of him, and he's not going to be difficult. He said he'll be very lenient with the Dolphins in the process, so I think that it's going to be relatively painless. I think you'll see a contract around $48, $49 million a year for Mr. Tua. And I know there's going to be a lot of people that are outraged about that. How can you do that? How can you pay him that exorbitant amount of money? Well, what's out there the Dolphins are going to get better? I mean, come on. I'm not going to name drop here, but who is out there that the Dolphins can get that's better than Tua? You're going to draft somebody? You've got about probably a 30% chance of somebody hitting. I mean, you've seen example, year after year. Teams go out drafting a quarterback. They don't work out. Then you have to go back to the drawing board and draft another quarterback. You don't have to go through all that. What are you going to do? Sign a veteran? A lot of times, they're interception machines. A lot of times, they're backups for a reason. Because they're backups. Because their prime is behind them. Tua's prime is not behind him. It is ahead of him. I want to clarify something here. The Dolphins fan base is a very interesting fan base. It's a very divided fan base, if I've ever seen one. Everybody has a different opinion to it. There are your loyal Tua supporters. There's people who love Tua for who he is. There's Dolphins fans who will support Tua because he's their quarterback, he's their QB1, and they'll run through a wall for him. Then there's people that don't like them. There's the crowd, we should have drafted Herbert. You have plenty of those people. You have the crowd, we should have drafted Jordan Love. They're there. And they bump heads all the time. They clash all the time. But to the Miami Dolphins fan base, I say, this deal is going to happen. So, accept it. Enjoy it. This is going to be your quarterback of the future. He has more than earned this contract. And you're just going to have to live with it. I know most Dolphins fans are grateful to have this because Tua has helped to open up a window that was not open for the Dolphins for a very long time. And they're well aware of that. And they're grateful. But there's others out there who will shout from the mountaintops. Tua's not their quarterback, then they don't want him. Think about it like Deal or No Deal. One of my favorite shows. One of the most captivating game shows out there. You see somebody get up into that $170,000, $180,000 range. And they want more. They want more. They want more. And I get it. It's a gamble. This is a risky move. Committing to Tua, like there is an injury history here. There are quarterbacks in the NFL who are better. People have a point when it comes to that. You know, look at Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. But again, who really is Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, Joe Burrow? They're elite. Tua, like I said, is one of the better quarterbacks. And not only the AFC, but the NFL. Dolphins have a great guy in Tua. Do you close the case and take the $170,000 home, or do you keep gambling? I think for the Dolphins, $170,000 is a lot of money. And Tua is a very good quarterback. I'd pay the man, and I'd ride with him for years. He's produced, and I think he will continue to produce. And that is that. Have a great day. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate you and the time that you took out of your day to watch the video. And if you enjoyed it, please be sure to like the video and share it, as well as subscribe to The Era. The more likes and subscribers I get on this channel, the more resources I can attain, and the more resources I can attain, the more value I can provide to you, the viewer. And that is how I show my appreciation for you for the time that you devote to watching my videos. So thank you so much, and have a great day.